A millionaire poured millions into finding a cure for his daughter's silence. Nothing worked. Then, one fateful day in a busy city square, a scruffy homeless girl handed her a strange, murky liquid. The crowd snickered. The father, furious, thought it was poison. But when the girl drank it, something impossible happened. One word broke the silence, and everything changed. But before we dive into this incredible moment, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. The city square was buzzing with noise, footsteps, chatter, the hum of life all around. But Mira heard none of it. All she could feel was the suffocating silence that pressed on her chest, a silence she had known her whole life. At just 7 years old, Mira had never spoken a word. Doctors, teachers, even religious leaders had tried to help, but all their efforts failed. Not even her father's millions could buy her the gift of speech. She stood by the fountain, her blue vest neat over a checkered blouse, her pale blonde hair catching the sunlight. Her eyes scanned the bustling crowd with curiosity, but her lips remained sealed, as they always did. Then, out of nowhere, a shadow loomed over her, a girl, only slightly older, yet worlds apart. Her clothes were ragged, her skin smeared with dirt, and her small frame was draped in a worn-out gray shirt. Her braids were tied with a faded pink string, and her hands bore the roughness of someone who'd lived on the streets. Her name was Leila, but in the city, no one ever cared to ask. To them, she was just another unnoticed figure in the crowd. Leila stopped a few feet away from Mira, clutching a battered plastic bottle to her chest. The liquid inside was unsettling, a murky, pale brown with tiny floating specks. It wasn't water. It wasn't juice. It looked wrong. But little did anyone know it was about to change everything. Leila's gaze locked onto Mira, unwavering and intense. "You're thirsty, aren't you?" she asked, her voice softer now. Mira blinked, her throat aching, dry as if it had been drained of all moisture. She swallowed hard but couldn't respond. Leila stepped closer, her tone lowering even more. "I saw you. You keep touching your throat like it hurts. I know that look. I've been there." Leila held out the bottle with both hands, her eyes pleading. "Drink this. Just a little. It might help." Mira froze, her mind racing. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Never take anything from strangers, especially not from people on the streets. But her eyes couldn't leave the bottle. Something about it felt important. Leila pushed it closer, her voice now sharp, almost desperate. "Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I know what this is. My grandma made it for me before she passed. She said it had power. It's the only thing I kept when she was gone." Mira's hands trembled at her sides. Her lips parted, but no sound escaped. "You can't talk, can you?" Leila whispered, her eyes narrowing in understanding. "That's why you look at me, but never speak. You're trapped, just like me. No one listens to you either." The words hit Mira like a slap, deep and painful, as if her secret had been laid bare for the first time. Her chest rose and fell quickly, heart racing. Leila shoved the bottle toward her once more. "Then drink. What do you have to lose?" A couple, dressed in fancy clothes, passed by, sneering as they looked at Leila. Feeding her garbage, the man muttered. The woman tugged his arm, never once glancing back. Leila's face flushed with heat, but she didn't lower the bottle. "See? That's what they think of me. Dirt. Trash." She shook the bottle gently. "But this is all I have. And I swear it's not poison. It's what kept me alive when I had nothing." Mira stared into Leila's eyes, and for the first time, she saw something raw, something real. Those eyes weren't lying. They were desperate, pleading for trust. With trembling hands, Mira reached out, her fingers brushing the sticky surface of the bottle. Leila guided it to her lips, her voice firm now. "Small sip," she warned. "Don't be greedy. Just let it touch your throat." Mira hesitated, then tilted the bottle. The liquid hit her tongue. Strange, earthy, bitter. Nothing like she'd ever tasted before. She gagged, coughing, her eyes watering. "Slow," Leila urged, pulling the bottle back. "Don't spit it out. Let it sit. That's how it works." Mira coughed again, her throat burning, but she didn't spit it out. She let the liquid sit, feeling its strange power begin to settle inside her. She didn't spit it out. She swallowed. Her eyes widened as a strange warmth spread inside her, a tingling sensation she'd never felt before. It was unfamiliar, but it felt right. Leila's expression softened, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Good. That's it. You'll see. Maybe it'll do for you what it did for me." Mira tilted her head, puzzled. "I was sick once," Leila said quickly, her voice shaky. "I couldn't breathe right. My grandma made me drink this, forced me, really. The next morning I was fine. The doctors gave up on me, but she knew. She called it a gift." Mira tightened her grip on the bottle. For the first time, something stirred in her throat, like pressure trying to escape. She gasped. "Step away from her." A man's voice bellowed, his footsteps pounding the pavement. His fists were clenched, his face red with fury and fear. Leila froze, clutching the bottle to her chest like a shield. "I didn't hurt her," Leila cried, voice trembling. "I swear I didn't." Silence. The man's voice thundered. "How dare you touch my daughter with that filth?" The crowd gasped. Well-dressed people gathered, whispering and pointing. A homeless child feeding a millionaire's daughter. The judgment was immediate. Mira stood frozen, her hand still pressed against her throat, torn between the only man who had ever protected her and the only girl who had ever given her something others couldn't, something real. She was thirsty. Leila shouted, desperation making her voice bold. "I saw her. She couldn't ask. She couldn't say it, but I knew. I gave her what my grandma gave me. I just wanted to help." The father's face twisted with anger as he pulled Mira behind him, protective. "Do you realize who she is? Do you have any idea what you've done? She could be poisoned." Leila's lip quivered, but she didn't look away. "No, she's not poisoned. Look at her." The father turned to Mira, ready to scold her, but then he stopped. His daughter's chest was rising and falling rapidly, her lips trembling as if words were finally fighting to escape. She opened her mouth, and a faint, broken sound escaped. "Pa." The crowd froze. The man staggered back, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. For 7 long years, he had prayed, pleaded, and spent fortunes on doctors, but not a single word had escaped his daughter's lips. Yet here, in the middle of a grimy square, after drinking from a beggar's bottle, she spoke. Tears sprang to his eyes. "Leila, say it again," he whispered, almost afraid to hope. Mira pressed her hand to her throat, eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. "Pa, Pa." The word cracked, raw but unmistakably real. The father's knees buckled, and he caught her in his arms, holding her tightly as he wept. For years, he had only dreamed of this moment, hearing his daughter speak his name. Now it was happening. A miracle. Impossible. Leila stepped forward cautiously, her hand still shaking. "I told you it wasn't poison," she said softly. "It was all I had left from my grandma. She said it could heal what no doctor could." The man turned, his tears turning into suspicion. "You expect me to believe this?" he asked, his voice hardening. That a ragged girl with a dirty bottle could do what the finest hospitals couldn't. The crowd murmured, torn between awe and doubt. Leila's eyes glistened. Believe what you want. I didn't ask for your trust. I just gave her what I had. She found her voice. That's all that matters. Someone in the crowd whispered, "It's a miracle." But another voice cut through the whispers. "No, it's dangerous. Who knows what's in that bottle?" The father's hand trembled as he held his daughter. Anger swelled in him. He wanted to shout, to call for guards, to remove this filthy girl from his life forever. But then, his daughter's voice broke through his fury again. "Papa." Weak but clear, undeniable. His throat tightened. Slowly, he sank to his knees, pulling Mira into his arms. For years, he had promised her everything: castles, toys, trips. Yet, it was a hungry girl from the streets who gave her the one thing his wealth could never buy. Leila stood a few steps away, her tattered shirt fluttering in the wind, her face torn between pride and fear. She braced herself, expecting to be cast aside, maybe even punished. But the father didn't turn his back. Instead, he looked up at her, his voice raw with a mix of gratitude and anger.
Why?
Why would you give this to her? Leila's answer came quietly, but with deep conviction. Because I know what it feels like to be voiceless. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. The crowd fell silent, those words sharper than any accusation. The father's pride clashed with the weight of the truth, but the truth won. He closed his eyes, the tears that had held back for years now streaking down his face. When he opened them again, his voice cracked. "You saved her." Leila's lips parted in disbelief. She never expected to hear those words, not from him. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a silk handkerchief and pressing it into Leila's hand. "This isn't enough," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Nothing I give you can ever repay what you've done. But you'll never go hungry again. Not after today." Leila stood still, clutching the cloth, stunned. After all these years, someone finally saw her for more than just a street beggar. Mira, nestled in her father's arms, stretched out her tiny hand, gently brushing against Leila's dirt-covered fingers. She smiled softly, her lips forming a word that had never escaped her before. "Friend." Tears welled up in Leila's eyes. The crowd, once filled with whispers and judgment, fell silent. No one laughed now. The millionaire had wealth, power, and influence, but it was a homeless girl with a mysterious bottle who had given his daughter her first voice. And that truth, no anger, no pride, no societal judgment could ever take it away. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Remember, miracles often come from the most unexpected places. Now, we want to hear from you. Would you have trusted the girl or pulled your child away?